It's really impossible to imagine, like, that when we look around here. I mean, your house is gone, but there's, you know, there's greenery still around, and it's sort of an island of destruction amidst things that weren't touched.
Wow, your house is gone. This looks like a plastic container. The fence is fine. The trees are fine. The reporter actually says there's greenery around, but your house is gone. Gutted.
That was a clip from Never Lose Truth's live stream from yesterday. And she also covered plasma fire the day before. And I'm going to pass the torch to her, the plasma fire torch, but obviously she doesn't need it passed to her. She took it like Prometheus and reached out and grabbed that fire. And she's a truther bulldog, a bulldog with glasses. That was her icon on one of her previous channels. And when she latches on, she doesn't let go. It's sad to know that there's only one other person who's done this, but maybe we can change that. But for now, let's go back and listen to what this reporter says again. It's almost like he's trying to draw the attention of this homeowner to what I've been saying for quite a while.
It's really impossible to imagine, like, it's really impossible to imagine, like, that when we look around here. I mean, your house is gone, but there's, you know, there's greenery still around, and it's sort of an island of destruction amidst things that weren't touched.
Wow.
An island of destruction amidst all of these things that were not touched, and there's still greenery around. It's almost unbelievable, he says.
It's really impossible to imagine, like, that when we look around here. I mean, your house is gone, but there's, you know, there's greenery still around, and it's sort of an island of destruction amidst things that weren't touched.
Correction. He says it's impossible to imagine. He's trying to draw his attention to the phenomenon that I've been covering for 5 years. The reporter can see it, and within the range of perception of the average person who doesn't know about plasma fire, that is impossible to imagine. And so now I'm going to show you just a small clip of the radar that shows these fires started simultaneously, 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, and there's a couple others there. You'll see 5 plumes of smoke appear simultaneously.
Nanobots, chemtrails, something. And the fires exploded today. Oh, Bandit. I start talking, she wants attention.
So you can see that my point here is those 5 plumes of smoke appear simultaneously. Not one appears and then upwind from it, another appears, and then upwind from it, another appears. The wind is blowing northwest, and those fires are not all in alignment with each other. They all appear simultaneously. I want to show you what it is I think that causes that in a 30-second clip from suspicious observers from a day or two ago.
On the scene. Up next, we have a direct correlation between the reverberation of the magnetic field during space weather impact, which occurs across a range of frequencies, including ULF, and the induced current from the solar storm, which is the main danger for technology. We know the ULF resonance is driven upward as Earth's magnetic field fades in the ongoing pole shift, and this is a key connection to why it produces greater induction risk to modern society. Lastly,
that was a mouthful in 30 seconds, so let's break it up a little.
Up next, we have a direct correlation between the reverberation of the magnetic field during space weather impact, which occurs across a range of frequencies, including ULF, and the induced current from the solar storm, which is the main danger for technology. We know the ULF resonance is driven upward as Earth's magnetic field fades in the ongoing pole shift, and this is a key connection to why it produces greater induction risk to modern society.
I missed the first part of it, and he says it so fast that I'll bet 95% of his listeners don't even know what it was he just said. So let's try that one more time.
Up next, we have a direct correlation between the reverberation of the magnetic field during space weather impact, which occurs across a range of frequencies, including ULF, and the induced current from the solar storm.
A correlation between the reverberations, that means a fluctuation in the magnetic field, a correlation between the fluctuation in the magnetic field and induced current. That's electricity going through the ground. So when there's a reverberation in the magnetic field, there is a corollary induced current. That's the electricity going through the ground. I'm going to show you someone else who I've already referenced this from back in 2020. Skywatch Media. That's what that means, that there is a correlation. And then he adds that it also is due to the increased solar activity,
which is the main danger for technology. We know the ULF resonance is driven upward as Earth's magnetic field fades in the ongoing pole shift.
ULF resonance, that's ultra low frequency, is driven up as the Earth's magnetic field fades, because when it gets weaker, there's more fluctuations in it. When it's stronger, there's less fluctuations in it. You'll remember the word ULF from a recent video I did featuring Jamie Lee of A Plain Truth, where he was showing the fires underground, calling it underground lightning, and referred to ULF in that phrase where he referred to this as underground lightning. So what he's saying is the exact same thing as what I'm going to show you by a guy who breaks it up and says it in much less of a compressed and dense way.
Up next, we have a direct correlation between the reverberation of the magnetic field during space weather impact, which occurs across a range of frequencies, including ULF, and the induced current from the solar storm, which is the main danger for technology. We know the ULF resonance is driven upward as Earth's magnetic field fades in the ongoing pole shift, and this is a key connection to why it produces greater induction risk to modern society.
Greater induction risk. That's geomagnetic induction, electricity flowing through the ground. You can see the title of this video is Earth's Magnetic Field Suddenly Vibrates, Causing an Unexpected Electrical Surge. The only place I would differ is that it is not unexpected. Every time the Earth's magnetic field suddenly vibrates, there will be a corollary electrical surge of ground current. And in a moment, we'll talk about how they can make that happen using technology by stretching the magnetic fields apart and then letting them snap back together like a rubber band. And when they do, it creates that fluctuation in the magnetic field that creates a surge of ground current.
In recent months, the Earth's magnetic field has been very quiet due to a solar minimum, which has been...
This video was produced in 2020 during the solar minimum.
In recent months, the Earth's magnetic field has been very quiet due to a solar minimum, which has been described as one of the deepest in the past century. Geomagnetic storms have become something of a rarity these days, as solar activity has become almost non-existent. Then something occurred on June the 23rd that had solar scientists scratching their heads, as instruments in the UK suddenly registered a magnetic anomaly. The local magnetic field began to oscillate with a continuous wave that rippled around the globe, lasting for more than 30 minutes. So what could have caused an unexpected electrical disturbance to take place? There was no solar or geomagnetic storm to cause the disturbance. Nothing was showing on the NOAA satellites for June the 23rd that would indicate an uptick in solar wind speed. Indeed, there was nothing showing that could explain the disturbance. So what could be the cause of a sudden electrical surge that was strong enough to vibrate around the world? In the Lofoten Islands of Norway, a similar magnetic anomaly was detected on the magnometer. According to observations, the anomaly was quite spectacular. The magnetic field was swinging back and forth by about 1/3 of a degree. Ground currents were also detected, with an almost identical 10-minute period. This is the second time in less than 6 months that an unexpected electrical surge and magnetic anomaly has been reported from Norway. On January the 6th of this year, sudden electrical currents started flowing, creating strong variations in the ground currents and the local magnetic field. The magnetic disturbance was captured by sensors at the Polar Light Center Observatory in Lofoten, Norway. Scientists described it as some type of a shock wave. It came as a total surprise. 15 minutes prior to the electrical surge on January the 7th, a NASA spacecraft recorded anomalies in the interplanetary magnetic fields situated near Earth, accompanied by an increase in solar wind density 5 times greater than usual. Scientists call the phenomenon strange, suspecting that the Earth may have crossed through some fold in the heliospheric current sheet. What was even more peculiar was that the electrical current flowing through the ground managed to electrify the sky with unexpected vivid auroras. It is uncertain as to the exact cause of this magnetic anomaly, but space scientists often refer to the phenomenon as a pulsation being continuous, where fluttering waves flank the Earth's magnetosphere even in the quiet moments of solar minimum, where waves can still be heard like a pin dropping in a room void of activity. On the day of June 23rd, the Earth's magnetic field was so quiet that the ripple was heard all across the world. The global network of magnetic observatories picked up wave activity from Hawaii to China to the Arctic Circle. Even in Antarctica, there was a sense that something unusual had occurred with the magnetic field. The continuous pulsations, referred to as PC waves, are categorized into 5 types, depending on their period of disturbance. The 10-minute wave that occurred in Norway on June the 23rd falls into the category of PC5. These type of waves have been linked to a loss of particles from the Van Allen radiation belts. The electrons circulate the Earth with bouncing motions, but these motions happen at velocities very close to the speed of light. As a result, electrons can make a circuit of the Earth in only 10 to 15 minutes. From what is known about the PC5 waves, they are much easier to observe when the solar activity is very quiet, making this a perfect time to study their motion.
So the main takeaway from all of that, even if you didn't understand some of what he was talking about, is that there was a fluctuation in the magnetic field. Simultaneously, there was a surge of ground current, and it was totally unexpected. None of the scientists can explain it, and it was during solar minimum, and there was no incoming solar flare. Solar wind speed was at a very low until this fluctuation happened, and then solar wind speed went up 5 times, 5x. And no one can explain how it happened. Maybe that's the technology that they use to create the effects of a directed energy weapon, which, from what I've heard, they can control the timing, intensity, duration, and location of the effects of a solar flare. And this is probably how they do it, and this might have been an example of when that technology was actually used, where they stretch the magnetic flux lines apart using some sort of technology, and then when they snap them back together like a rubber band, it creates that fluctuation in the magnetic field, and therefore a surge of ground current. And then they can direct it where they want that ground current to come up out of the ground. And that same energy, because of our weakening magnetic field, it is fluctuating more. And therefore, maybe it's happening to a degree that we don't want it to, but we have the technology to be able to ground it, like touching your finger to the outside of one of those plasma lamps and drawing those little electrical fingers of dancing plasma to wherever you touch the globe. The same effect can be created. When that electrical current is going through the ground, we have the ability to touch the globe somewhere and decide where it's going to come out. Sometimes with pinpoint accuracy, like Joe Biden's 5 Secret Service vehicles. And at other times, maybe when it's happening naturally, there's so much ground current, we have to draw it out, but it covers a large area like Canada, or like I said, Russia last year had more wildfire than all of the entire world combined. And with that, I buried one of the headlines. Stick with me here.
Me now is the mayor of Parkland County, west of Edmonton, Alan Gamble. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Can you first of all tell us what the situation is like with the fires in Parkland County and the surrounding area?
Yeah, certainly. We do have an active fire near the Hamlet event whistle that we've been working on for 2 weeks now. All of our residents have been gone home, so the evacuation order was lifted. However, the fire is still active. With the hot weather and the dry conditions and the low humidity, the fire is actually burning into the peat. So we are calling for more resources to help us out with ground crews.
Is it possible, Mayor, that people will have to evacuate again?
That certainly is a possibility with the weather. Currently, we are asking residents to certainly have a bag packed and ready, enough food and water for 3 days, important medications, and also important documentation. So we do want to ensure that our residents remain on high alert at this point in time.
What are some of the challenges that firefighters and emergency personnel are facing with these fires right now?
Yeah, what we're facing is our crews are exhausted. They've been working on this fire for 2 weeks. It is digging deep into the ground, into the peat.
Oh, it's digging.
Challenges that firefighters and emergency personnel are facing with these fires right now.
Yeah, what we're facing is our crews are exhausted. They've been working on this fire for 2 weeks. It is digging deep into the ground, into the peat.
Oh, it's digging deep into the ground. Really? The fire is digging deep into the ground. Well, Jeff Snyder, I believe your work has been confirmed by what that mayor just said. But look at the smoke. This is what I saw as I was traveling down that mountain in Montana.
And the fire is very, very difficult to extinguish. So they have to dig it out to extinguish it. So we're looking for more ground crews, more support. And we do recognize that.
He said twice that it's burning into the peat. That's below the topsoil. He said they have to dig it up to put it out and extinguish it. The peat beneath the ground are what are known as zombie fires, as in this one. I just Googled it. Climate change stokes zombie fires in Russia's Siberia. Zombie fires in Yakutia. This is in Siberia, in Russia, 2021. It's burning beneath the snow, and he says there must be some peat under there. I've seen them there. There must be some peat burning there. I've seen them before where they dig up the fire under the snow. That's not steam. That's fire burning the peat under the snow, just like it is right now in Canada.
Долго. Если обычный пожар это несколько часов или несколько дней, то торфяной пожар может жить несколько месяцев, обычно до зимы или даже до середины зимы. А именно вот этот пожар, по всей видимости, горит уже 5 лет подряд. То есть 5 лет он пережил зиму, при том, что в Сибири очень много снега зимой. И здесь такие условия, такое залегание торфа и такая плотная дерновина сверху, что тление оставалось в почве после того, как уходил снег, снова все разгоралось. Торфяные пожары не характерны для этого региона, они редко сталкиваются с горящим торфом, и вот эти подземные пожары, вот эти зомби-файрс, как их называют, они стали происходить только в последние несколько лет. Изменения климата привели к тому, что падает уровень грунтовой воды, засухи и очень маленький уровень воды в реках, и начинают гореть те территории, которые раньше не горели. Вот они...
So when I was talking to someone about this idea that maybe they're directing it, maybe there's a massive amount with the Earth's magnetic field weakening the way it is, they have to direct it somewhere, they have to touch the globe somewhere as those fluctuations in the magnetic fields create a surge of ground current, they have to touch the outer globe of the plasma lamp somewhere, and they're directing it, as far as my hundreds of videos show, into non-populated rural areas where the only things that are getting burned is fence posts and trees, for the most part. And he said, well, why wouldn't they direct it like out into Siberia or something then? Maybe they are. These zombie fires, as the last video showed, this one's been going for 5 years, he said. And Russia has had more wildfires than the rest of the world combined in 2022. Burning underneath the snow, burning the peat. As the mayor in Canada said, it's digging under the ground and burning the peat, so we have to dig it up to put it out. You see the overlap? You see the similarity here? You see that it's probably the same kind of phenomenon going on. Phenomena. Okay, that's an old 90s throwback. Zombie fires. For the remainder of this video, I'm just going to let Carol tell you from the Carol Cam over there at Never Lose Truth. And this was from May 15th. This was yesterday. And I will also include a link in the description from her video that she did on May 14th that has some plasma fire coverage in it as well. She's done previous videos exclusively specifically focused upon plasma fire, but now she's just doing some plasma fire coverage in her regular routine. So, take it away, Carol.
The weather. I want to show you these pictures that I forgot to show last night. This is This is the Alberta wildfires. Do you see this? How, wow, that's a rather demarcated post. But it's clear that these fires are coming from the ground. These posts, wood, are fine. So it's, yeah, this is definitely coming from the ground. So there's a little bit of a burn mark on this side, but look at all of these posts, and as you can see, it's burning from the ground. And again, Jeff Snyder too has pointed out the plasma fires. You will see they burn grass like on a line, and then another line of, well, untouched. Here you go. And look at these wood posts. It's burning from the ground. You know, you've got the burn marks at the bottom of these posts, but then you have the top of the posts, and even some are, most of the post is completely fine. This is what I saw in Montana, something like this. It was the smoke coming from the ground. So, all of these burned pieces amongst, well, all of this grass is completely fine. I guess the fire stopped, dead on a dime. We've got to stop right here at this line. And this post is completely fine. So, yeah. Well, they do have an awful lot of weapons to cause these fires, but there's an awful lot of evidence that this ain't a natural happening or even human caused. Even human caused. And I saw this last night, and I took a capture of it, and I was like, okay, dokie, look at this. What is this, a cloud? Is this really a cloud? Wow. Well, that's pretty intense. How this, and look at how dark these clouds are. And I suppose we're gonna say, oh, it's the fires, when there's, you know, it's not, the clouds are not black anywhere else. I also noted how rather bizarre. Now this is a fire, and look at all of the black that lines all of the smoke, the black dots. Find that interesting. In all three of these fires. So we do have nanotechnology that can cause these fires. We have plasma fires coming from the ground. We sure do have the directed energy weapons that can cause the fires. Hell, we've put directed energy weapons on our homes. Some had no choice for the smart meters. So, and Albertans are not getting very much help from the government. Do not expect any help from government anymore.
You're gonna come that way across this way. Can you grab that corner of the house? Hey guys, I'm gonna get you to go this way so I can move the hose for her. Okay, I'll go that way.
The fight is chaotic, and these Yellowhead County ranchers and farmers are on their own.
We're helping ourselves because we have to at this point. And we can't wait. The fire's not waiting for permission to put it out. Like, Are we supposed to just sit idly by and oh, okay, you guys told us to evacuate?
You do what you have to do, and sometimes you might get in trouble for it.
Kelsey Miller and Samantha Caillou grew up on nearby ranches, friends since they were 5, now coordinating a network of volunteers putting out hotspots.
So how did you learn how to do this?
So last week, I learned my first firefighting skills, I guess. Any inaction results in loss, and we don't want loss of life, loss of resources, loss of land, loss of our livestock. There's too much at stake for us to be idle.
Trucks fill up at Jimmy's Pond. Food and fuel donated.
If you turn around right now, you can see our army of public support coming down the road.
Businesses lend vehicles.
That's trucks from people that give a shit about Albertans in general, not just who's in power and who's got the money.
Well, we're nothing if not resilient.
Miller and Caillou are among the many in Alberta who defied evacuation orders and stayed behind to protect their homes and livestock because, they say, no one else was coming to do it for them.
We're not beating up the firefighters and boots on the ground and the people in the skies. We are extremely grateful for each and every single one of them. We want people to know that we were literally abandoned and we have every right to be upset. And so what crews did you have on Saturday?
Miller and Caillou confronted officials at their local fire station and streamed it live.
Humans are helping humans now. Okay. Where is the empathy here?
I believe you that you're saying you guys are frustrated, and I do understand.
We're beyond frustrated.
Across Alberta, anger is simmering.
I have farm animals that I cannot crate up and take to a hotel. They're farm animals, farm dogs, farm cats, chickens. How do you load 50 chickens into a hotel?
They're kicking people out that are helping. So why are we not allowed to help?
I understand your frustrations, I do.
Fueled by the sense governments, both provincial and local, simultaneously aren't doing enough to help and are getting in people's way when they try to help themselves.
Your response was garbage.
The anger here, the tension, and the anxiety are all playing out in the middle of a provincial election, just as Albertans are facing a decision about what kind of government they want in charge in a crisis.
The reality is both potential premiers lead parties who cut wildfire budgets when they were in power. Rachel Notley's NDP cut $15 million in 2015. In 2019, the United Conservative Party disbanded a specialized team of firefighters who rappel into hotspots from helicopters.
I wish we could have everybody everywhere that is needed all the time, but it is part of the reason why we are calling in resources from outside the province.
It's not enough, says Wade Williams. He's the mayor of Yellowhead County.
No, I'm not satisfied with the amount of support we're getting from the province. I don't, in my opinion, the province wasn't geared up for this wildfire season when it hit.
How do you respond to residents who are telling us that they didn't get enough support from the municipal firefighters and are having to do this all by themselves?
Yellowhead County does not fight wildfires. We fight structural fires.
That's the reality in much of the country, says wildfire scientist Mike Flanagan.
Well, with 100 new fire starts, no fire management agency can deal with that many fire starts all at once.
100 all at once. Don't you think that needs to be questioned? What happened that 100 fires start all at once? There is so much that needs to be questioned, and you know, people aren't. People aren't. So, one more. Flooding forces evacuation in southern Minnesota town. More farm.
Expecting hot and dry conditions with little chance of rain throughout most of Alberta today. We are seeing widespread crossover conditions, which means that the temperature is higher than the relative humidity. These conditions lead to extreme fire behavior and will challenge our firefighters on the ground. New wildfires can ignite easily and spread quickly. While we have seen cooler temperatures and some rain in previous days, it is not enough to make a significant difference on most of these large wildfires. Fire activity will pick up today. We will be watching conditions carefully as they can change quickly.
We remain in an extremely volatile situation, and the risk of new wildfires remains significant in much of the province. Hot and dry conditions are expected to continue over the weekend and into next week. For those who are in a community that's on an evacuation alert, please continue to be prepared in case you are asked to evacuate, as things can change quickly.
So, more homes were taken out.
A Métis settlement in Alberta has lost dozens of homes and other property after a wildfire ripped through the East Prairie Métis settlement. Hundreds were forced to evacuate last week. Dave Lamouche is the president of the Métis Settlements General Council, and he joins us from Edmonton. Dave, thank you so much for joining us here today. First off, can you give us the latest on what the fire situation is there?
In East Prairie right now, the fire has died down. The fire has moved away from the community. It's under control in that area. And people are there's still areas where the fire is smoldering, so they haven't been able to go back into the community yet. So there is no.
Notice the fire. Notice that there are patches of this dry grass that for some bizarre reason just didn't catch fire, but the fire, this is a wildfire, they claim. The fence, look at the fence, and again, the fire goes under the fence, and somehow the fence, it's just a miracle that it survived. Now, I don't know if this is one of those vehicles, but it doesn't look it actually, but it looks like there's plastic on it. That's completely fine. So Jeff Snyder does explain the plasma, the fire that's literally coming from underneath the ground, and I've heard two news broadcasters speaking about the fire coming from, one said it was coming from under the ground, and another one said the fire is so intense that it's burning into the ground. I don't think so.
No electricity in the community, so there's, a lot of the houses have been out of power since last Friday. So the meat is, I think they were taking these houses, people were living in them, or families were living in them. And I think some of them were vacated where people had moved to either the city or somewhere else for work and education. So, and over 40 structures, including sheds and garages and barns and things like that they had lost as well.
Well, so, that's obviously very
of support. There was some help initially, and when the fire got a little larger, in East Prairie's case.
I just wanted to pause it right here for a second to let you see this bridge. Take a good look. You can see the guardrail on the side. You can see the steel structural beams that go down to the ground. The cross member that goes atop. And then you can see the asphalt and some sort of metal railing. Bottom line is, fire doesn't do this to a bridge. And in these fires, it vibrates like the microwave or something, dustifies the concrete to the point where when a drone flies over a neighborhood that's been hit by one of these plasma fires, you can see the grid pattern of rebar that was encased in concrete in every driveway, and it has similar effects on the foundation of the homes. Driveway after driveway after driveway, in some cases, you're able to see the grid of rebar, the metal bar that goes inside the concrete before they pour the concrete. And then one of these fires comes through and it disintegrates the concrete to the point where it reveals and exposes the rebar that was inside the concrete prior to the fire. Something similar looks like it may have happened here to this bridge.
And in East Prairie's case,
Again, you know, what it looks like the fire right over here just didn't come over here, I guess. So all of this, they are always talking about how hot these fires are. Look at this. Look how demarcated is this. And, well, here's, it looks like wood.
I just wanted to pause it here for another second. She breezes over this pretty quick. Look at that triangle burned into the yard. It's almost like that might have been an RV pull-up and they have something buried under the ground right there. Something metal, like a water line. But that rectangular burn in the grass right there, definitely plasma fire.
That's still standing. It does look like it's burned from the ground up and it stops right here. And yeah, it does look a little weird that it's only whatever this structure was. But as you can see, you know, the grass beyond it and trees beyond it, unaffected, though it does look like, well, that's too far away for me to say, but it does look like this tree also had a burning from on up, not wildfire-like.
boy, the people. And
very bizarre.
And in East Prairie's case, there was some help initially, and when the fire got a little larger, I think there was SRD and the local fire departments backed off. And I think...
So when can people head home?
There's about 15 kilometers of power.
Okay, so... I renamed this not properly.
It's really impossible to imagine. Like when we look around here, I mean, your house is gone, but there's there's greenery still around, and it's sort of an island of destruction amidst things that weren't touched.
Wow, your house is gone. This looks like a plastic container. The fence is fine. The trees are fine. The reporter actually says there's greenery around, but your house is gone. Gutted. That should raise eyebrows. That should be questioned. Don't you think?
Hard to...
It's just, to me, just amazing how they survived. When I left here, I thought they're dead, because I just started farming. This is, you know, and I thought I had to start again. But I came here the next morning, and I see my house. It was just totally destroyed. Like I was totally lost. And I was talking to my daughter, and I had no words to tell her, no nothing. And she, you know, it's like you're in limbo. Your life goes into limbo because you don't know where you're going to live. You don't know what you're going to do next. You don't know anything, you know, tomorrow. But it's crazy.
You were saying it's the things inside the house that you lost, not the house that's really the...
Yeah, because all of my mementos for my grandkids and stuff that I had, like it's stuff like that you never get back. You know, you work so hard for it, and it just disappeared in 24 hours. It's gone. Like your whole life changed. Like it's devastating. I'm still trying to. Every time I come here, I just still can't believe it. I walk around and I shake my head to what happened. And it's just like I said, just the biggest question is I don't know. That's the biggest answer I got is I don't know.
You don't know when you're
what I'm going to do, when it's going to be fixed, when it's going to go back to normal, if it ever is, which probably won't be.
Okay, well, you know, as you can see, and again, they have many weapons at their disposal to use. So it could be plasma and directed energy weapons. Who knows? But there's evidence certainly of both being used. And, you know, don't forget the nanotechnology.
Evening, a highly visible wildfire roared to life last night, burning up the side of the river valley and onto a hotel patio. Today, a large charred area below the Courtyard Marriott, showing just how close the hotel and a few other properties came to disaster. CTV's Merrick Takash has more.
And they're literally calling this a wildfire.
A
wildfire. As you can see, a whole lot of not green, but, you know, dead leaves on these bushes. They should have gone up in a split second. So this appears to be a plasma fire.
Hotel and a few other properties came to disaster. CTV's Merrick Takash has more.
The tall flames only lasted about 5 to 10 minutes, according to bystanders. But this is the aftermath of the fire that caused an evacuation of the Courtyard Marriott Hotel just after 9 o'clock on Thursday night.
It was probably the largest blaze I've ever experienced, but it was because the wind was pushing it uphill and I was downhill.
But this is the aftermath of the fire that caused an evacuation of the court.
Look at this. So it looks as if this fire is, it literally is, these bushes should have gone up in a split second. They should not be there. Why are they there? Well, it looks very defined. And again, Sherry has put in the link to Jeff Snyder 2's channel. Check out his videos on these plasma fires that I witnessed in Montana. And I didn't know what I was looking at until I was watching Jeff Snyder's videos. Because I was driving down the mountain and I see smoke coming from the ground. But there was no homes around. It was not a, you know, controlled burn or anything. It was just smack in the middle of, you know, all of the forestry up there. And I'm like, all right, this is not good. Didn't know where it was coming from, what it was. And soon after, I see Jeff Snyder's video, and he actually has a video that he took in Montana, seeing, you know, all of the lined smoke coming up from the ground, and then it ignites. So, but yeah, I'd say this fire needs some questions.
Glowing, like smoldering still as they were putting it out. I saw videos on Twitter that people took from across the river, like the fire was like way up above like the ledge of this the fence and up towards like the windows of the hotel. It was pretty insane.
The Edmonton Fire Rescue Service says the cause of the fire is unknown at this point.
We know that human activity is one of the greatest causes of outdoor fires, right? So it's
yes, of course, you have to say human activity because it's climate change and humans are bad. Yeah. Okay, that's the flooding.
Me now is the mayor of Parkland County, west of Edmonton, Alan Gamble. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Can you first of all tell us what the situation is like with the fires in Parkland County and the surrounding area?
Yeah, certainly. We do have an active fire near the Hamlet event whistle that we've been working on for 2 weeks now. All of our residents have been gone home, so the evacuation order was lifted. However, the fire is still active. With the hot weather and the dry conditions and the low humidity, the fire is actually burning into the peat. So we are calling for more resources to help us out with ground crews.
Is it possible, Mayor, that people will have to evacuate again?
That certainly is a possibility with the weather conditions.
Really? Wildfires. one over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it looks like 2 joined, and it's bizarre. Okay, it's phew. It's hard to take. It is. We are so at war, and I'm so tired of listening to broadcasters talk about Mother Nature and how hot it is and the winds kicking up and the low humidity. You know, look, all of that can be controlled by man. All of that can be created and controlled by man. All you have to do, look into weather modification.
Currently, we are asking residents to certainly have a bag packed and ready, enough food and water for 3 days, important medications, and also important documentation. So we do want to ensure that our residents remain on high alert at this point in time.
What are some of the challenges that firefighters and emergency personnel are facing with these fires right now?
Yeah, what we're facing is our crews are exhausted. They've been working on this fire for 2 weeks. It is digging deep into the ground, into the peat.
Oh, it's digging deep into the ground. Really? The fire is digging deep into the ground. Well, Jeff Snyder, I believe your work has been confirmed by what that mayor just said. But look at the smoke. This is what I saw as I was traveling down that mountain in Montana.
And the fire is very, very difficult to extinguish. So they have to dig it out to extinguish it. So we're looking for more ground crews, more support. And we do recognize that all municipalities are in the same situation.
And what about homes, businesses, in terms of things being damaged or destroyed? What can you report to us?
What I am able to report is that we have lost 3 homes, many outbuildings, and also a business at this point.
And what about resources, Mayor? Do you feel that you have seen enough people on the ground? What sort of support are you looking for from the province? As we mentioned, there is going to be an update coming up in about 2 hours' time.
Well, they sure do need a lot of support. And they sure do need to stop lying. Yeah, the fires are digging deep into the ground. Oh my God. All right. Sure wish just ordinary people would begin to question what the hell they are living. So those were 3 homes that were just recently burned down. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, well, I want to go with the number 43 based on that 3 homes today, but Texas.
Torrential rain and severe weather is wreaking havoc in Texas. A tornado touched down near the small town.
So that's Carol from Never Lose Truth, and she's covered plasma fire on the 15th and the 14th and the 13th. I'll just leave the link to the 13th in the description. And so from now on, if I happen to not be around anymore, you can refer your plasma fire sightings to her, and she can collate and add it to her library. Tag, you're it.